Rap star Tupac Shakur died last night after a brief life in a rough business. He was 25. For nearly 3 decades, the murder of Tupac Shakur loomed over hip-hop like a ghost no one could exorcise. Gunned down on a Las Vegas strip in 1996 at just 25 years old, Tupac's death sparked endless conspiracy theories, documentaries, and street whispers. Yet, no one was ever held accountable until now. The rapper's 1996 murder from a drive-by shooting has remained unsolved for nearly 30 years. In September 2023, authorities arrested a former gang member long rumored to be connected to the case. Now, the alleged mastermind behind it all will appear before a judge. He is 60-year-old Dwayne Keith Davis, a known gangster. In truth, we suspected him all along. He wasn't just in the car that night. He allegedly orchestrated the hit. What's more disturbing is that he had been openly talking about his role for years in interviews and even a memoir. Many believed he had cut a secret immunity deal, which is why he felt invincible. This is the indictment we've been waiting almost 3 decades for. But now that the truth is unraveling, what investigators found is even darker than we ever imagined. Tupac's death and the initial investigation. On the night of September 7, 1996, Tupac Shakur was riding high, literally and figuratively. He had just attended the Mike Tyson vs. Bruce Seldon boxing match at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, accompanied by Death Row Records boss Suge Knight. It was meant to be a night of celebration. But within hours, the 25-year-old rap icon would be riddled with bullets in a drive-by shooting that would claim his life. What ignited the violence that night was a confrontation in the MGM Grand lobby. Surveillance footage captured Tupac and his entourage assaulting a man named Orlando Anderson, a known member of the Southside Crips. That assault, according to law enforcement and eyewitnesses, set the stage for what happened just hours later. At approximately 11:15 p.m., as Tupac and Suge Knight's black BMW waited at a red light on Flamingo Road and Colville Lane, a white Cadillac pulled up to their right. Suddenly, a barrage of gunfire erupted from the Cadillac. Tupac was hit 4 times, twice in the chest, once in the arm, and once in the thigh. Suge Knight was grazed in the head by shrapnel but survived. The Cadillac sped away and the scene dissolved into chaos. Tupac was rushed to University Medical Center where he underwent several surgeries. Despite efforts to stabilize him, he died 6 days later on September 13, 1996 from internal bleeding. In the immediate aftermath, police faced challenges from every direction. Witnesses, many affiliated with gangs, were either unwilling or afraid to talk. The code of the street kept lips sealed, and investigators struggled to find anyone willing to go on record. Suge Knight himself offered little cooperation, and Tupac's entourage quickly scattered after the incident. So, the case went cold. But despite the lack of charges, names continued to swirl in media circles and backroom conversations. Among them was Dwayne Keith D. Davis, a known __, and Orlando Anderson's uncle. Anderson had denied involvement in Tupac's killing and in a strange twist was himself shot and killed in 1998 during an unrelated gang shootout. With his death, whatever loose-end investigators hoped to tie up vanished, at least temporarily for years. Rumors persisted that Davis knew more than he let on. He had connections to the scene, and multiple accounts placed him in the vehicle used during the shooting, but no charges ever came. Law enforcement cited a lack of direct evidence, key witnesses being uncooperative or deceased, and a murky web of gang affiliations that made prosecution seem impossible. Still, the name Keith D never quite disappeared from conversations about the case. He appeared in documentaries, behind-the-scenes interviews, and even law enforcement reports, but always just out of reach of justice. What made the situation more frustrating was that we suspected him all along. The streets knew. The hip-hop world knew. Even some within law enforcement suspected Davis played a central role. But without hard proof, it was all speculation. The case remained one of the most high-profile unsolved murders in modern American history. Tied forever to the East Coast-West Coast rap feud that dominated the mid-90s. And for years, it seemed Tupac's killer, or at least the person who made the hit happen, would never be brought to justice. But everything changed when Keith D started talking too much. the breakthrough and arrest of Dwayne Keefe D. Davis. For over 2 decades, Dwayne Keefe D. Davis lived like a man who thought the law couldn't touch him. He'd survived the violence of LA gang life, seen his nephew Orlando Anderson gunned down, and evaded serious consequences in one of the most infamous unsolved murders in American history. But in the end, it wasn't a new witness or hidden piece of evidence that brought him down. It was his own mouth. In 2008, during a federal investigation into drug trafficking in Los Angeles, Davis sat down with investigators for what's called a proffer session. Essentially, he agreed to speak openly about certain crimes in exchange for potential leniency or protection so long as he didn't lie. "I'm innocent. I ain't killed nobody. Never did ever kill nobody." What Davis revealed during those sessions shocked even seasoned law enforcement officers. He admitted that he was in the white Cadillac the night Tupac was shot. And more importantly, he described himself as the shot caller who orchestrated the retaliation after the MGM Grand beatdown. At the time, investigators couldn't act. Davis's statements were protected under the proffer agreement, and there was no hard evidence to corroborate his claims. The trail went cold again, but Davis didn't stop talking. Over the next decade, he gave interviews, appeared in documentaries, and even wrote a memoir titled Compton Street Legend, in which he described the events surrounding Tupac's murder in disturbing detail. He spoke freely about the tension between the Southside Crips and Death Row Records, and how Orlando Anderson was humiliated by Tupac and his crew at the MGM Grand. Davis claimed that after the attack, he got a gun, got into the Cadillac with 3 others, and drove off to find Tupac. "I was the only one left alive who could tell the story," Davis often boasted. But what seemed like a move for street clout or book sales ultimately backfired. In 2023, investigators finally decided enough was enough. The Clark County District Attorney's Office reopened the case, this time using Davis's public statements, recorded interviews, and even his own book as evidence, not protected by any proffer agreement. On July 17, 2023, Las Vegas police executed a search warrant at Davis's home in Henderson, Nevada. They seized computers, phones, hard drives, and other potential evidence. It was clear they were building a case. And 2 months later, on September 29, 2023, Davis was arrested and charged with murder with a deadly weapon. The charge wasn't for pulling the trigger. Investigators believe Orlando Anderson was the actual shooter. But because Davis admitted to planning the hit, securing the weapon, and directing others to retaliate, prosecutors argued he was criminally responsible as the architect of the murder. Davis, now in his 60s, appeared in court with a confident smirk. He pleaded not guilty and claimed the authorities were twisting his words, but the weight of his own admissions hung over the courtroom like a noose.